Welcome to our pelvic diamond class. By visualizing the base of your pelvis as a diamond as we're moving through the exercises, it really supports us to bring balance and efficiency to the bones and the muscles as we're exercising. So we shall start by taking our feet and placing them underneath our hip joints, arms down by our sides, and just stand for a moment and notice, how are you feeling? Physically, emotionally, mentally. All of these things affect all of us, our posture and our pelvic floor, believe it or not. So notice your breath, notice any tension in your body, notice your mood, and then notice your pelvis. When you think of your pelvis, can you clearly visualize it or not? What is your current embodiment of your pelvis? Can you imagine the shape of your pelvis and all of the bones? Can you imagine where the pubic bones are, your hip bones, your sit bones? Having a clearer picture of our pelvis really is supportive in us improving our pelvic health. So we're going to start by just gently bringing our fingertips to our pubic bone. And you can perhaps just gently walk your fingertips as if you're kind of just padding the pubic bone, just touching the pubic bone. The pubic bone is where two bones meet at the front, and there's a little cartilaginous disc in there, similar to the discs in the spine. So there's movement that's available here. Okay, now, right hand is going to come to your right sitting bone. Easier to find if you stick your bottom out, hinge forwards, and just touch your sitting bone. These bones, the pubic bone and the sit bone, are the same bone. So just for a moment, I want you to touch these two bones and just have a sense of that. My pubic bone and my sit bone, it's part of the same bone. Now, what you could do here, if you're happy to, is walk the fingertips of your right hand from the pubic bone all the way to the sit bone and then forwards again. And we'll do that just a few times so that we're putting this part of your body more clearly on your mental map. So you can see it more clearly, you can interact with it more clearly. And then the brain can navigate the body, the brain can reduce excess tension or invite more contraction if that's what is needed. Okay, last time, forward and back. It's interesting, isn't it, that this pubic bone is the same bone as the sit bone. Okay, and then we'll just bring arms down by our sides and give yourself a moment just to notice, okay, how does that feel after I've touched that side? Sometimes you notice that you're more planted through that foot, you're more grounded, even the shoulder is a little bit more relaxed. And it's all about this proprioception. Your brain can now more clearly interact with and see this side of your body. Let's try the other side. So left hand can come to the sit bone, which is out on a diagonal in relationship to the pubic bone. And then we're going to walk one hand, probably the left hand, from the sit bone to the pubic bone. So walk from the sit bone to the pubic bone, a couple more times. So it's a diagonal. Can you see that? It's like a triangle. Pubic bone at the front, sit bones there at the back. And we have many beautiful muscles that connect this triangle, the urogenital triangle. And the urogenital triangle really supports the bladder and the uterus. It's like an extra support for those two organs. And let's come up to standing, bring your arms down and observe, oh, interesting, how do I feel after a little bit of tactile feedback for that part of my body? So that is the triangle. Bring your hands into a triangle shape. That's the triangle there at the front. We're going to be thinking of the base of our pelvis as a diamond. So now take your hand, one hand, to your coccyx, the very, very, very base of your spine. And then stand, other hand to pubic bone. So we have a bone at the front, we have a bone at the back. You can keep your hands there, bone at the front, bone at the back, and then two bones here on the side. Can you see that that's a diamond shape? So just stand for a moment and sense that. Pubic bone, coccyx, two sit bones. pubic bone, coccyx, 2 sit bones. And within these muscles, attaching onto these bones rather, you have many, many, many layers of musculature. And we can definitely dive deeper into these individual layers. But just for today, we're going to think about these bones. So if you now bend your knees, tuck your bottom underneath you, stick your bottom out behind you, tuck your pelvis underneath you, tilt the pelvis behind. We'll do a few more. I wonder if you can imagine what's happening to the bones. What's happening to the bones as you're moving your pelvis or pubic bone forward, pubic bone back. Can you sense that the bones or the distance between them gets smaller, the diamond gets smaller, the diamond gets wider. Smaller and wider, and smaller and wider, and smaller and wider, smaller and wider. Can you sense that? We'll do a few more, perhaps go for another 10. And think of drawing all of those 4 points in together and then widening them together. So draw them in together, widen them together. So muscles need to be activated, but also to experience their full length. We often think of tight muscles being strong muscles, but they're not. Our muscles want to experience both full contraction and full release. Full contraction, full release. Full contraction, full release. Beautiful. Okay. Let's do the same thing lying down. So make your way down onto your back. If you feel that you need a little bit of support for your head, you can pop a cushion or a towel or a blanket underneath your head. And we shall lie down on our back with our knees bent, feet just hip width apart and arms resting down by our sides. Take a moment to adjust to this relationship with gravity and to the floor. And really notice this extra support that you have now. You can let go even more. You have this full support underneath you. Head can rest, shoulders can rest, arms, torso, pelvis, feet. So currently that diamond is quite wide, but we're going to tilt the pelvis towards us and narrow the diamond, tilt the pelvis away from us and widen it. Tilt it towards us and narrow, and then widen. And narrow, and widen. It's like all of these bones are in this orchestra. And can they all play together? Or can they all dance together? Can they all move together? 2 sit bones going wide, coming in, going wide, coming in, and then pubic bone and coccyx going wide and gathering in. Going wide and gathering in. 5 more, wide and gather, and wide and gather, and wide and gather. And you don't need to think about squeezing your pelvic floor. If you're moving the bones, the muscles will be moving, they'll be activating. Okay, the progression now is to tilt the pelvis towards us and to slowly move up into a bridge. So this will be, the diamond is nice and narrow. And then we're going to ripple all the way down through the spine and widen the triangle at the bottom. Narrow the triangle as we ripple all the way up. Beautiful, stand tall at the top, ripple all the way down through the spine, and then widen the triangle. Let's go for another 4. Double check that your weight is evenly distributed through both feet, because that will definitely have a knock-on effect into how the hamstrings are working, how the glutes are working, and then therefore the balance in the pelvic floor. And you can check that you're breathing in through the nose, breathing out through the nose. The 4th one, stay up at the top. So hold the very last one up there. Even weight on the feet, you're reaching the knees forwards, gently connecting your arms into the mat. And let's just pulse our bottom up for 10. And you'll be able to really feel the glutes activating and the hamstrings activating. Just do your 10 and then ripple all the way down. We'll do the same thing again, but for 20. And this time, I want you to imagine the pelvic floor activating. So if you've done the sphincter class, you can think of those 3 sphincters activating at the very top. So we ripple all the way up, and then we pulse, and we think sphincters, sphincters, sphincters. So anal sphincter, vaginal sphincter, urethral sphincter. I know it's a lot, and if it doesn't feel clear in your body, that's fine. It's just an intention for us to activate those sphincters. Beautiful, we're going to do 20. And then when you've finished, ripple all the way down and hug your knees into your chest. Gently rock the legs from side to side. Settle the legs with one hand on top of each knee. Can we stir the legs all the way around? Nice juicy hip stirs. Big circles. And imagine all of your pelvic floor tissue being able to release and stretch out. So it's not in a state of tension and contraction where it won't be able to function efficiently. Your pelvic floor muscles are able to fully contract and fully release. Let's reverse the circles. So particularly if you've had trauma to the pelvic floor and to the pelvis, there can definitely be physical tension there. There may be scar tissue there, and there is most certainly emotional tension there. And whilst, of course, we want to build strength, we can often get more strength with the release, with the letting go, with the stretching out. So just to bear in mind. Let's open knees out to the side and take a couple of moments to relax. So this diamond, imagine that it's beautifully wide and open and relaxed. And breathe. Close your legs. Lower your feet down, roll over onto your side and up onto your hands and knees. I'd like to explore that diamond movement, the narrowing and widening of the diamond in our cat-cow. So you have fingers spread wide, hands under your shoulders, knees under your hips. And then initiate the movement with the coccyx. So draw your coccyx forwards towards your pubic bone. Draw your sitting bones in. And then widen, let the tailbone lift, the coccyx lift, pubic bone forward, sit bones wide. Just that. So tucking the pelvis underneath you, and then releasing, 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 releasing. And we'll go for 5 more. Doesn't matter when you breathe, just continue breathing. And you don't need to actively contract the pelvic floor. You could do that as an exercise, just to give it a little bit of extra kind of oomph. But you don't need to. We don't really want to build too much tension in the pelvic floor. We want to teach it, to train it to work efficiently and to be able to adapt to the demands. So of course, if we were to add a weight to this or do a weighted squat or some weighted exercises for the legs, then the pelvic floor might need to work a little bit stronger. But for something as gentle as this, it doesn't need to. And we want to train efficiency in the muscles. Okay, beautiful. Tuck your toes underneath you. Only if this feels suitable, you're going to lift your sitting bones up like a downward dog and allow your heels to drop down. If you don't love that on your wrists, you could just come into a roll down position here. Take 2 or 3 breaths and imagine your sit bones being wide, the muscles able to release. Imagine your hamstrings being able to lengthen. The hamstrings come up and attach onto the sit bones and very much influence the pelvic floor. So we'll slowly walk our hands all the way back in and ripple all the way up to standing. Come and stand with your feet just hip width apart. And let's close with an image of this diamond. This diamond as your pelvic floor, or the shape of your pelvis from the bottom. Pubic bone, sit bones, coccyx. Close your eyes and imagine this diamond and just see if there are any intuitive images that come up. I'm imagining almost like a bright light, like a bluey, whitish light. So there's an energy there in the base of the pelvis, from pubic bone to coccyx to two sit bones. And maybe this bright light is bringing our focus and our attention into our pelvis and pelvic floor. Maybe it's a healing light. Maybe it's a light that's giving you this support from underneath. This physical support, this emotional, energetic support. And observe with a little bit more awareness and connection to your core. And in this case, to the pelvic floor. I don't mean that the muscles are gripped, but just a little bit more awareness there. Do you notice that your jaw is able to relax? Your shoulders are able to relax. Your diaphragm is able to move more freely. Your glutes are able to relax. So we have this real kind of core integrity and awareness. And the periphery is just free. Well done. To close our session, open your eyes. And still being aware of this beautiful diamond, you're going to inhale, reach your arms up. Bring your hands together and all the way down to your heart. And one last time, inhale. And then as you exhale, bring your hands all the way down to your heart. Well done, and thank you so much.